LIC हर पल आपके साथ।
Hello and welcome. I'm Kartikeya Sharma and you are watching the COVID-19 Health Summit on WION. The world is facing an unprecedented global pandemic challenge due to a virus that originated in China. At the epicenter of the crisis is the healthcare sector. In the month of July, India recorded more COVID-19 cases than in all previous months put together. What's even more alarming is the fact that the virus has traveled from urban centers into the hinterland, where a lack of awareness, poverty, and a fractured healthcare system are emerging as major obstacles in the battle against COVID. But this is a fight that India must win, and how do we go about that? How do we rejuvenate India's healthcare system? This is what our panelists are going to discuss today. Joining us on the show are Dr. Indu Bhushan, CEO Ayushman Bharat and National Health Authority. Dr. V.K. Paul is member of Niti Aayog and chairman of the Board of Governors, Medical Council of India. Shailja Chandra is former Health Secretary, Government of India. And Dr. Sangeeta Reddy, Joint MD, Apollo Hospitals. Welcome all of you to our special edition on how do we rejuvenate India's healthcare systems, and especially in context of the pandemic which is raging right in front of us. And I'd like to begin the panel discussion by asking this question to Dr. Paul first. So in 1849, the cholera outbreak led to restructuring of the health infrastructure in New York. Or in the Indian context, the plague in Surat led to restructuring of the facilities in the city in 1994. Will coronavirus pandemic lead to an overhauling of the entire country's health infrastructure?
Well, certainly events like the pandemic spur action in regard to health sector, but the need to revamp, re-energize and to strengthen the health system of India is not necessarily starting with the onset of the pandemic. The efforts to strengthen the health system have been going on. We have been making progress, but certainly we have had a long way forward. But I think in the last 2 years or so, with the advent of the Ayushman Bharat, both for health financial protection for secondary and tertiary care of the Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, as well as the commitment to strengthen the health and wellness centers and to provide comprehensive family health care, in particular, is a very strong desire and commitment to strengthen the health system of India.
Dr. Indu Bhushan, what are your comments on this? Do you think that it is our movement where we will be able to overhaul, restructure our healthcare system throughout India?
Well, as Dr. Paul was mentioning, the process has already started. There is a whole plan to put more than 150,000 health and wellness centers in the whole country. With that networks of health and wellness center, we will be overhauling the whole system of preventive, primary and promotive health care. And linked to that, under Ayushman Bharat is Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, which will provide support for secondary and tertiary care. So together these pillars from Ayushman Bharat will of course transform the country. In addition, recently several steps have been announced, including strengthening of our surveillance system, including strengthening of our network of labs and National Digital Health Mission. And these steps are going to be pushing us towards very strong health system. And I'm sure that this crisis is going to help us come out of it much stronger. And whenever a similar crisis comes later, we'll be much better prepared.
Absolutely. But the pandemic has shown that the interface between the private and public sector needs to improve. Do note that 60% of the Indian hospitals fall under the private sector. Shailja Chandra, would you like to comment on this issue that the interface needs to improve?
Yes, there's an enormous need for that interface to improve. There is in the public mind no differentiation between medical services and public health and infectious diseases control. public health and infectious diseases control is squarely throughout the world a government responsibility. The private sector has to notify, has to inform, has to maintain data, has to follow whatever guidelines are given, and also chip in as they have done right now. The private sector, having made it into a business, has to really reinvent the way it improves its interface with the public, because there is at the moment a kind of a belief that the private sector is in it for money and only money, which is not true. Both sides have some truth in it, but the private sector, having invested, has every right to be able to function efficiently and get a return on investment. It is for government to regulate and oversee. So I think COVID has brought a lot of this on a common platform. It would probably lead to better interface in future.
Okay. Dr. Sangeeta Reddy, would you like to comment on this? That more interface is required?
So first, let me say that, as the only person purely from the private sector, I not only completely agree with everything that's been said earlier in terms of enhanced access, more infrastructure, and better working between public and private, but also thank Ms. Shailaja for her point on the importance of getting a return and having a better interface. But I want to take one step back, because you've given us such a fantastic, canvas, which is the ability to reimagine healthcare post-COVID. And that, I think, is the crux of the issue. And squarely up front, I want to say that we must remove the artificial divide between public and private. I speak on behalf of a small private doctor who's probably the only doctor for 5 villages. The PHC may be in the 6th village. How do we find a way to engage him into the system? And I also speak on behalf of the large health systems who are actively fighting shoulder to shoulder with the government system to offer beds and to treat and to cure. So first, let's remove the divide. Second, let's find a way to look at the broad specifics, which is accessibility to healthcare. The 500 million people with Ayushman Bharat must definitely get enhanced healthcare, but they also could be served by the private. And India is 1.3 billion. So whether they're insured, many of them underinsured, is a huge area. So access to healthcare, both geographic and financial. The second important one is that affordability of healthcare is not dependent solely on the price that a private sector charges. It's dependent on the electricity and the input costs, the land costs, the labor costs, the devices, the international equipment which comes in. How do we bring down the basic input costs so that we can create a more affordable health system is really the way to look at it. The next aspect is design and prevention. Because if you treat a problem at the early stage, say you find a cancer in stage 1, you will avert the crisis. You will not need high-end radiation. You will not need proton therapy. But if you need those, then there's a cost. So there's a design element of focusing on preventive healthcare, where strengthening of the primary healthcare centers, which was mentioned earlier, is critical, but also engaging all aspects of prevention. Mm-hmm. And before I hand over, the last aspect of design is COVID, more than anything else, has showed us 2 things. One is that healthcare is not just about the doctor or the hospital or the government. Healthcare is society's responsibility, especially in a pandemic. So we must design for an inclusive, prevention-oriented care. And the second is that digital has become a huge enabler, a huge enhancer. Let's use the power of digital to create this new inclusive health system.
Dr. Reddy, I think you have touched upon many issues which are very central to this debate on our health infrastructure dealing with the pandemic. But one question pointedly I would like to ask you again is, the supply chain of the private sector has been completely disrupted. And I don't think that the hospitals and the health industry of the private sector is also immune to it. And the cash flow which used to be there is not there. So how is the private sector dealing with this unique challenge where it needs to build infrastructure to deal with the pandemic in terms of the style and the management of running an hospital in terms of design, but also to ensure that the availability of other basic amenities are there for those who are not dealing with COVID-19 but other serious ailments?
split this. I think it was very appropriately said that we're all in the same storm, but we're not in the same boat. So larger healthcare systems have found access to capital, gone to their banks, enhanced equity, because the fact is that the cash flows are entirely disrupted. There is no revenue. There is very little margin in the health system. So to stay alive, there's a need to raise capital. But you look at the smaller or the medium-term hospitals, some of them have shut down, shut shop temporarily, or some have decided to convert their nursing homes into some other, whether it's real estate, because the scenario has really heightened some of the problems. All the fault lines are showing up. So the financial structure of healthcare, while some believe it's very lucrative, honestly, it needs a systemic and a very different approach to enable a certain level of return on investment. That's point one. But on the immediate response side, let me really say that many hospitals have stepped up, and I actually want to commend also the government in the participative and collaborative way that this has been dealt with. India is a country in the supply chain. What was the biggest word you always heard over the last 4 months is PPEs and masks. A country that was producing under 10,000 PPEs per day is now doing 4.5 lakh PPEs. So private sector, government sector, small entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs, all stepped up. The whole supply chain has to be monitored better. I mean, Remdesivir is a fantastic example. It's a great drug. It's transformational for many patients. Yet it's getting, some people are saying there's black marketeering of that. Why should we allow such things to happen and then, have a bad name? We just should enable availability for our patients at the appropriate price.
I would like this point to be referred to Dr. Indu Bhushan, because you see, ultimately there were a couple of schemes which were launched by Prime Minister Narendra Modi and primarily targeting a sector whereby the affordability was the key to the scheme. Ayushman Bharat is part of the Indian government's national health policy, and it is about providing affordable healthcare to millions of Indians. But my question to you, sir, is how did the government deal with the pandemic when fees in the private hospitals rocketed through the roof? Did we manage to take care of millions of people who were not, who could not afford the sort of charges which were there in the first 30 months? And did the scheme really succeed in bridging that gap, sir?
Absolutely. Actually, not only the scheme, but also the government has put together resources, large amount of resources to support this. What Sangeeta ji was saying about the hospitals also holds true for families. It is indeed correct that all of us are facing the same storm, but all different families are in different boats. Some people can afford it, some people can't afford it. And for those who can't afford it, and if they're part of Ayushman Bharat, we are providing support. And we have provided more than 17,000 treatments under Ayushman Bharat for our beneficiaries. 35,000 testing have been provided. But in addition, I think you have to see that the government, most of the treatment is being done by government facilities, and it is free for everyone, whether they are from Ayushman Bharat or not. But here, Karthikeya, I would like to point out another thing, that while treatment of COVID is a major issue, but if you look at the needs of the health sector right now, many more require non-COVID treatment. And even during this time, supporting critical non-COVID treatment like chemotherapy, hemodialysis, and many other critical health conditions has been important. And we are focusing on that, so that first we are promoting hospitals that they should continue to provide those critical non-COVID treatment. At the same time, helping our beneficiary families that they can take those non-COVID treatments at this time.
I think that's an important point. But there's another issue, and I would like to take this to Dr. Paul. So, Indian slums house 30% of the urban India. Now, when this pandemic broke, the first attention of the government was on dense clusters, because the approach was social distancing to ensure that the health parameters are properly followed. And Delhi, Mumbai, and various dense urban clusters came into the government's attention. Now, it also showed the challenge which faced the Indian health authorities. In your opinion, what sort of new health strategy is required to deal with a large swath of working population in cities, which will be prone to once again the second or the third wave of a pandemic of this scale? Because we know what happened in 1918, even the plague of the medieval Europe, it came and went in waves.
It is true that this virus loves people. It moves in spaces where there is a high density. Populations are in congested environments. So that is a matter of fact. Globally, we've seen that the pandemic is the densest in the largest of the cities of the world. And therefore, it was not unexpected that much of the action, especially in the early phases, would occur in large cities, and that's what has panned out. What has worked and would work, learning from the experience and the high principles of epidemiology and sciences, is threefold. First and foremost, the preventive strategies, the self-care, the best practices that individuals should embrace, families should embrace, and communities at large should embrace. And that goes back to, when you're facing a pandemic without any shield of the drug or vaccine, you're basically fighting this war bare hands. And those principles are the same that happened in the previous pandemics, for example. And these include masks, physical distancing, hygiene, and of course, we have other insights into the disease, and therefore we want to protect our elderly in particular. And we are happy that there are Ayurveda products that can boost immunity in individuals, and that can provide a generic shield to the individual.
Okay, but there's another issue, and I would like Shailja Chandra to come and clarify certain facets of it. The Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana was supposed to be a game changer, where people with government insurance could access private hospitals. What kind of inputs were received in midst of pandemic in context of cooperation from private facilities? I'm asking you this question because Ayushman Bharat was supposed to be a bridge in the country where private players only cover 18% of population in urban areas and 14% in rural areas. Your comments?
Well, I think COVID was something totally unforeseen for everyone, but certainly for the private sector hospitals. This is something which they were not geared to do, remember. And they had no training for it, and they had no managerial skills to deal with it. So in a way, they went by whatever they were ordered to do, and health is a state subject under the Constitution. So every health minister, chief minister of a state gave out certain guidelines, advisories, and then there were directions. These had to be followed. Some may have been a little slow in the beginning, but I think whatever they did, they were able to match up and be able to accept those patients. So I don't think that one can say that the private sector demurred or tried to evade responsibility. They, of course, have a long story to tell about what will happen if this continues, because their business will completely come to a halt. It'll collapse. But we are not on the economics of it. We are on the health side of it. And I do feel that largely they measured up to it, and the networking took a long time in the beginning. I was quite panicky in the beginning that there didn't appear to be any networking of public sector with private. Who goes where? You can't leave it to patients to walk into an emergency. Should patients be accompanied? Will this case require a ventilator? How does the family know what is to be done? There was chaos in the beginning, and the chaos was such that word of mouth was the worst enemy of all, because these horror stories used to be told from morning to evening about people you didn't even know, but you heard third hand, and that was bad. I think it kicked into place sooner than I would have really expected. I do feel that we are not giving enough credit, although this is not the question you have put to me, but I feel that we should talk about it. The lockdown had one tremendous quality, that it sensitized the states and the districts.
Correct.
And I think very early in March, very, very early, I was asked to appear in one of these programs. And so I quickly did a conversation with the director EMR in the Ministry of Health. And the way he was already in the saddle, doing the surveillance, doing the airport clearance, looking at the manifestos. But then I started talking to health secretaries of different states, not the prime states, which have a good, relatively a better structure, but the Jharkhands, the Chhattisgarhs, the, what are they, Odisha. And I was very surprised that the health secretaries had got their act together. The cooperation and collaboration with the central government on technical matters was superb.
Very important point, falling short of time, but I think there are a couple of questions which I really need to ask before I wind up this our special edition. And this question goes to Dr. Bhushan. And my question to you, sir, is that has Ayushman Bharat been able to create access to healthcare? Because a large population still cannot access what is available. 2012 study showed that only 37% of India could access healthcare within the 5-kilometer radius. So your comments quickly.
See, the healthcare access is dependent on many things. One is that services should be available. Second, that people should be able to afford those services. So our scheme is providing affordability and people can afford services. And we are hoping that because we are creating demand, supply response will come. And government is also putting together a series of incentive structures so that investment can be made in rural areas, tier 2, tier 3 cities. And we are quite sure, if I have to look into future, in 3 years' time, 5 years' time, we are going to be seeing increase in the availability of services, thereby improving access to services.
Dr. Reddy, very quickly, 20 healthcare workers per 10,000 people in India. The backbone of Indian health infrastructure, the people who are fighting at front, what the Prime Minister said, COVID-19 warriors. What do we have to do about them?
So, you know, in conjunction with everything that's spoken about, access, manpower, design, IT, I want to first begin by saying that so much has begun. Whether it's Ayushman Bharat, the training programs, a lot of work that Niti Aayog has done, this has done. We need to stay the course, enhance the pace, and collaborate, you know, beautifully between public, private, center, and states. So there are lots of good examples. Let's celebrate a lot of these successes and ensure momentum. In one line on manpower, we have to double our doctors, treble our nurses, and grow by 5 times our paramedics. We must enhance the skills, so we need more postgraduate doctors, but many steps towards this have begun. We must just stay the course and stay collective. I really, you know, want to congratulate a lot of these good steps on the Medical Council. Dr. Paul is here. We've spoken about it many times. There's a lot to be done. People are cognizant about this. Let's do it together.
Thank you, all of you, for joining us on this edition of WION Health Summit. But I think the priority is clearly laid in front of the government, which is center, and also the state, that what we actually need to do is to cooperate, create better interfaces, use digital technologies, and be ready in future in case India has to deal with the second or third wave of pandemic, as South America, Europe, and now the North America is dealing with. Thank you, all of you, for joining us on COVID-19 Health Summit on WION.
COVID-19 Health Summit. Partnered by LIC. Arbal Apke Saath.